One of the most common complaints levied against the roster of JoJo All-Star Battle R is the lack of JoJolion representation. So today I'll be going through who I consider to be the top 5 best Part 8 characters that this game could add in a hypothetical Season Pass 2 to help fix this problem, and I'll explain why I think each character should get in. Number 5. Yasuo Hirose. Yasuo became an instant fan favorite with readers due to how realistically her character was written, so there's no shortage of people who want to see her get an All-Star Battle R. The only real obstacle to her getting in is her stand, Paisley Park, because it's heavily focused on utility and doesn't give much material for creating a fighting game moveset with. That's not to say it's impossible, but it's definitely substantially harder to make a moveset for her than it is for most other characters. But she still made the list in spite of that, so good for her. For number 4, I picked Joshu Higashikata, and he's kind of the exact opposite situation as Yasuo. He has a really cool stand with really cool moveset potential, some of which we already saw back in Eyes of Heaven, but there's just a lot more characters that are more likable than him due to how he was written to be a hateable character. But at this point, I'm far too desperate for any sort of part representation to really be super picky, and Joshu did get a lot of panel time, so he'd be a good character for that. Number 3 on this list is one of Gappy's most loyal late game allies, with Rai Mamazuku. He's kind of the good middle ground between Yasuo and Joshu, because he's both a likable character and has a cool stand with doggy style. It should be really interesting to see all the wacky ranged attacks he'd use as moves. Number 2 is an even bigger fan favorite, and in my opinion an even cooler stand, with Jobin Higashikata and Speed King. A lot of people wished he played a bigger role in the actual story of Part 8 as well, so you know the fans would be dying to play as this cunning antagonist who lives every day like a summer vacation. Before I say number 1, I just want to quickly talk about 3 honorable mentions who almost made the list, starting with Tamaki Damo and Kei Nijimura. They're both really cool characters with equally cool stands that just barely fell short of the list. I'd be really happy with seeing either of them make it in. The other honorable mention is Go Beyond Gappy, which is basically an overhauled moveset for Part 8 Josuke that uses the entire manga as source material. The reason this revamp didn't make the cut is because while I do think a reworked Gappy would be a really cool addition, I personally would rather they just give us some new faces from Part 8 at this point, so I put him as an honorable mention instead. And that means that yes, number 1 is obviously Toru, because hey, he may not be everyone's favorite main villain, but he's still a main villain in the series regardless, and that alone warrants him a high placement on this list, honestly. And then you also have his stand, which is one of the coolest in the series with Wonder of You. I often see people try to claim that Toru has no moveset potential because his stand is heavily defense oriented, and to that I say that he literally has an in-universe answer to get around his lack of offensive capabilities in the form of the rock bugs, so they would be a very natural fit for fleshing out the gaps in Toru's moveset. So those are my top 5 most wanted JoJolion characters for JoJo All-Star Battle R. Here's hoping we get a Season Pass 2 so we can see a few of them actually make it in. Feel free to let me know who you want to see get an ASBR in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to stay up to date on all new character reveals or leaks. And with that, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.